relationship specialist. I'd like to welcome you to Love, Listen, Talk, Repeat, a podcast that talks all about relationships. They come in all shapes and sizes, and each one's unique. So in this podcast, I chat with guests about life events and issues that can affect relationships, as well as discussing different types of relationships that may not always fit the mould of being mainstream. There will also be some episodes where it's just me talking about something that may be helpful in your relationship. So for now, just sit back and enjoy. Hello, it's Wendy, and today I'm going to be talking to the lovely Kelly Pietrangeli. And now I know I haven't got it correctly pronounced, Kelly, and I do apologise. So when you introduce yourself, please let us know how I should be pronouncing it. Kelly's going to be talking today about putting marriage before kids. And just to tell you a little bit more about her before I introduce you, she's the creator of Project Me for busy mothers, an online platform that supports mums with tools, resources and inspiration, which I think all mums need so desperately. So Kelly is known as the Mama Motivator. She's an author, motivational speaker and mentor who teaches practical strategies mixed with woo-woo mindset tips to help you be the best version of yourself. So Kelly, please introduce yourself correctly. I thought I got the name right, but I don't think I have.
Don't worry, it's a difficult one if you're not Italian, which I'm not either, but my husband is. It's Kelly Pietrangeli.
It's a beautiful name. You say it so beautifully. I really stumbled over it.
It took me a lot of practice to learn my own new surname after I got married. Seriously, people were calling me Kelly Pietrangeli, which sounds like a nursery rhyme. But Pietrangeli actually means rock angels in Italian.
Oh, how lovely. What a lovely name. So please, Kelly, introduce yourself more and tell us all about you, because we met briefly and it was at a speakers club and you gave such a delightful speech and it was so emotional and moving, and I thought I want to know more about this lady. So please introduce yourself to us.
Well, thank you. So yes, I'm the creator of Project Me, as you mentioned, and Project Me, I created it for myself. It really was a Project Me, as in my life felt like a bit of a hot mess, and I figured the best way to tackle it was to divide my life up into the different life areas. And so I actually got a project folder. And I've seriously got a project folder and put 8 tab sections for the 8 different areas of my life, and we treated it like I would a project. And I began looking at which areas of my life needed some focus. And I started writing down, what's the challenge in this area? And what can I be doing to overcome this challenge? And I began to see that when you write it down, when you put things in writing like that, you can actually come up with your own solutions. And I started making action plans and setting goals and completely turned my life around. And I used to joke that one day I'd write a book about it. And now Project Me really is, I've written a book called Project Me, and Project Me is now helping mothers all over the world to treat their lives like an exciting project.
That's fabulous. And how delightful that is to make yourself a project, because in my experience working with clients, I find that people put themselves at the bottom of the pile. You know, everything and everybody comes before them, and I say, well, where do you come in this list of people who are the most important people in your life? Where do you come? And so, well, I just don't come anywhere, or I'm at the bottom, or don't even mention themselves. And so I think it's lovely that you've put this together, because we have to put ourselves at the top of the pile, because we're not good to anybody else otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, some people think, oh, Project Me, it sounds very me, like very selfish. And I think it's the opposite, actually. The more that you can focus on yourself and getting to know yourself and understand yourself and learning from your mistakes and growing and exploring everything to do with your own life, the better you're going to be for everybody else. Like,
Yeah,
it's definitely when you spend enough time getting to know yourself, you have more to give other people.
totally. And if we're not in a good state if we're not looking after ourselves and in a good state, we can't be any good to anyone else.
Exactly. I meet too many mama martyrs, the ones who are just completely doing everything for everybody else. And maybe they did it when the kids were little with just thinking it was their job. I just need to do everything. I need to do everything all the time. And then they get old, their kids get older, and then they start saying, well, they never do anything. They never help out. They never pick up. They never do anything. And then they're teenagers. Well, they never tell me where they're going. They never do this. They never do that. And, they've kind of created this because in the beginning, they didn't delegate enough. They didn't enlist help. They thought they had to do everything themselves, and then later on they became to begrudge it all and feel really hard done by and all of that. So I definitely encourage mothers from as early on as possible, but it's never too late to change, to not do everything yourself and to enlist the help of your family and get everybody on board. That's one of the things I preach a lot with Project Me, is to get everybody on board to help out.
Yeah. Yeah. The martyr mum. So many of them about, they think they're doing the right thing, but it's not in the long run. You're so right there. So you talked about your husband being Italian. How long have you been with him?
We're coming up to actually our 20-year wedding anniversary. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So we actually made a little pact with each other when I was pregnant with my first son. My son's 18 now. And when I was pregnant, I remember, I think I was feeling emotional like you do when you're, weepy and going through all the kind of emotions. And I wrote him this letter, and it said, I have to dig it out because I still have it somewhere. And it was me promising him that once we brought this baby into the world, that I was never going to be so child focused, so baby centric and child focused that I was going to forget about him. I said, we always need to put each other first, and always need to remember that the reason that we're bringing this little person into the world is because of our love for each other, and not to have it come between us. And I just remember it was a heartfelt 2-page kind of weepy, never want this. I think I was feeling scared about, becoming a mother. Some people completely and utterly feel 100% gung-ho excited about it. For me, I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to completely change my life, which it did.
Yeah.
But I didn't want it to change us. And he completely agreed with me. And from really early on, as soon as we were able to get a babysitter for the very first time, we started going out and having our monthly date night, which turned into later on a weekly date night. And we have really never lost the connection, I'm sure, because we made that commitment to each other at the beginning that we were just not going to let kids get in between us.
And I think those are such wise words, because so often I've heard mums just putting the kids first, and then when they've flown the nest, there's no relationship left.
Absolutely.
And they say, well, the child has to come first. Well, yes, their needs have to when they're so demanding as babies, of course. As you so rightly said, you had the child together because you loved each other and you produced it together, and they're a product of your love, not in place of your love.
Yes, I know you never know how you're going to be when you have a baby either, and we're all different. But some mothers just completely, everything becomes about this kind of mother protective instinct, and they don't want to let anyone else look after their child at all, and they wouldn't dream of getting a babysitter because, if their parents live too far away, so they can have their parents come, and they end up just completely and utterly never going out. I think I put on my Project Me Facebook page one time, when's the last time you got a babysitter and what did you do? And it was heartbreaking to me to see how many people say that they've had a kid years ago and they've never had a babysitter and they don't go out and what's going out and what's fun and all of that. I just think to myself, gosh, the best gift you can give your child is two happy parents. And I understand that some marriages break down for all sorts of reasons. So I'm very non-judgmental about that. And, I have something for everybody with Project Me, whether you're divorced, single, happily married, unhappily married. Project Me is not just for happily married couples. It's not about that. But I do feel sad when I think about people who won't let anyone else look after their child at all, because I don't know. I've never been that way. I'm not that way. And so happily found out that there was a creche at my local gym, a few months after I gave birth, and thought to myself, fantastic. That means I'm going to get to have, they would look after my child for an hour and a half as part of my gym membership. So I was able to go and work out for an hour and then also get to go and have a shower and wash my hair and blow dry my hair and then go to the juice bar and have a smoothie with some of the other new mothers I'd met there. For me, this was just like the greatest gift. And I'm not going to say that in the beginning, I wasn't there at the two-way glass kind of looking through, making sure he was okay. And if he was crying, it was kind of heartbreaking. But, I always knew that if I went in there and rescued him, he was never going to get over the separation anxiety. And so I'd have to kind of sit there like, and it took a few times and then happily playing away, absolutely loving it. And I have to say, it made the separation anxiety when he started nursery school such a breeze. I saw the other ones clinging to their mothers and crying and screaming, and mine was happily going off with the others and playing, because he was used to babysitters and used to going to the creche at the gym and that kind of thing. So it's going to happen eventually that you have to leave them for a while when they start nursery school and school. So for me, babysitting is just it's one of those just first steps.
And I think separation anxiety, yes, all children can suffer from it. Of course they can. But I think it's important, as long as they know that you're going to come back and you're going to come back when you say you will and you're going to be there, that's really much more important, I think, because they will be separated. And it's the way we do it as well. If we do it with confidence and that you're going to be okay and we understand that you're a little bit scared, but, I'm coming back, and you keep your word, then that is far more healthy for a child, isn't it?
I believe so too. I mean, when for comforting words for anybody who still has babies or toddlers and they just wonder how that would affect them and everything. I mean, my 18-year-old has won leadership awards. He's completely self-confident. He's never felt like, I've been abandoned because my parents go to Ibiza once a year for 5 days and leave me with my grandmother. I mean, we've been doing that since he was 1 year old. We've had our annual Ibiza 5 days, just my husband and I, and that has never affected him. He's had a great time with his grandmother for 5 days. Always growing up, they're super close together, and my other son as well when he came along. So that's just always been a part of their growing up.
Yeah.
And then lots of different babysitters. When we moved to Spain, we moved to Madrid for 6.5 years, and we had different babysitters there all the time, some who only spoke Spanish and they were learning Spanish and all of that. And I mean, my kids are so independent and, leaders and all of that. So, I think it definitely had something to do with that.
Yeah, that sounds great. It really does. And I think it's reassuring for mums, because I think they do get scared. It's very scary when you're first a mum, isn't it? Do I do it right? And am I getting it right? Am I going to screw up their lives? All of that stuff. But I sometimes wonder, when there's that anxiety, who the anxiety is around. Is it there for the child, or is it that the mother's the anxious one and she just want to be left? And so is she, like you say, she's being the martyr, but is it because it's her stuff and not the child's?
Yeah, I think it could be. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm hearing so much about your book. You've got this Project Me book, and you talked briefly about the wheel, and I'm interested, because you said you made Project Me and it's in segments. Could you explain a bit more, because I'm interested in that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how I like to make it really easy for other mothers to start their own Project Me is they get the Project Me Life Wheel tool. And that looks at the 8 different areas that make up your life. It's a little self-assessment. You look at each of those 8 areas and you look at it on a month-by-month basis because life's always fluctuating. You're getting new challenges thrown up, all the time. So this isn't like looking at your whole life and how, well, I should tell you what the 8 areas are. So the 8 areas that I've created for myself when I was deciding what are my 8 areas. So there's family, and then there's love, and I always put those two separately
Yeah.
because I think that even if you're divorced, you're probably looking at the love area of life is just your marriage, it's your relationship with your ex, it's future loves, it's all of that. So family, love, health, that's health and well-being, fun and friendships, which I think is really important, personal growth, which is everything to do with understanding yourself and developing yourself, learning and growing and all of that.
Yeah.
Money and finances, work. And if you don't work, then work is there for you to look at whether that's an issue for you or not an issue for you. If it's like, no, I'm not working right now because my job is raising my family, then that's not something you need to look at every month. But if it is something like you are working or you want to work, then that's an area, that's the way for you to explore that. And then the missing piece of the puzzle for me was always productivity. Productivity wasn't one of my original tabs in my section, I have to say. And I started realizing how important time management and productivity was for a busy mother. So much. Everything from meal planning and food shopping, making sure you know what you're going to feed everybody every week, to making sure your kids have shoes that fit, and the school uniform if that's the case. And oh my gosh, just so much goes into productivity for a busy mother. And so I realized that was the missing piece of the puzzle for me when every month I would do my little assessment and where am I in or out of balance. And I was realizing that just wasn't paying enough attention to how to get systems in place, systems that would make my whole life run smoother. So once I added productivity to the Project Me Life Wheel, everything fell into place for me.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
so
that's great. Yeah, I love that. And I know of a similar wheel, the wheel of life in general, which
yeah.
I use with clients, and I use on myself too, because I need to check if I'm in balance. And I don't go into great detail, but I'll just check in and say, okay, where am I on the wheel? Am I a 10 or am I a 0? Am I a 5? And the way I view it, Kelly, is that if this was a car wheel, how smooth would the ride be? And I don't know if you use that as well.
I say the
I,
same thing.
I
Yep.
love it. I love it
Yeah.
because that really gives somebody an idea how bumpy is the ride. And I know sometimes they look at it, oh, that's a bit bumpy. I need to redress that. So I just
For
love that.
people who have never done this exercise, it's a very visual thing, and you connect the dots. So you're rating each area of your life, 1 through 10. A 10 is not perfect, by the way. We are never, ever trying to achieve perfection. That's just crazy making. A 10 would be everything this month is going really, really well in that area, like as good as it gets, and that's not an area of focus for me this month. So you could give a 10, for example, in the work area of your life if you're not working, or you could give a 10 in the money area of your life if you've got no financial concerns this month. It's that kind of thing. And then I always say that a 1 or a 0, a 1 is reserved for crisis situations. It really is. I mean, some people are too hard on themselves. Or like,
Oh,
just things
yeah.
aren't going that well that month, and so they're like, I'm just going to give myself a 1. And it really, really think about it, because that is really crisis. If you gave yourself a 1 or a 2 in the health area of your life, it would mean a serious health crisis.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just feeling like you need to lose a couple pounds, or that kind of thing, come on, be more gentle with yourself. But the great thing about it is, because it's this visual tool, you're marking yourself in each of the life areas, then you're connecting the dots. You're playing almost that connect the
Mm.
dots thing you used to do when you were a kid. And as you said, when you connect the dots, you see your circle, and you see whether your circle is, round or zigzagged or really small. And what I teach in my book and in my online programs and everywhere is that your wheel is never going to be perfectly round every month either. There's these natural fluctuations that happen every month depending on what's flying in your face each month. And And it's really good because you save them up. I believe in creating a little binder folder for all of your Project Me Life Wheel assessments every month. And it's a great way of you being able to date each one, look back and say, here are the fluctuations. Here's how it's not, how it moves. And to also see which areas are repeatedly low. And then you can say, okay, this is a really challenging area of my life. And now I need to put on my pro problem solver hat and figure things out. And on Project Me, I give lots of action sheets. You actually go to myprojectme.com, you go to the action sheets tab, and there you find printable action sheets, because I'm such a huge believer in figuring things out on paper and not in your head.
Yeah.
When you're figuring things out in your head, it all feels convoluted, and you're giving things only a couple minutes and something else is coming into your mind and you're never really figuring it out. But if you print out the Project Me Challenge Solver action sheet, you are identifying the challenge. You're asking yourself, what is this challenge costing me? And you're asking yourself, how would I feel to have this solved? And you're doing a little bit of, writing this down. And then what ideas do I have? And the ideas flow when you do it this way.
I think that's great. And it's something I'm going to recommend to some of my clients, definitely, because although I work on it and help them look at it, sometimes time is a bit tight, and we don't have the time to spend a lot of time on it. So I think that would be really good to recommend them to look at that at your website and your book. It sounds great because they can look at it in more depth, and to be able to look at the trends, I think is really, really great, because then we get a better feel of how we function in the world. And it sounds to me anyway, it sounds a great tool. So yeah, I'm going to be directing clients there.
Oh, great. I've got loads of action sheets. I've got my newest one is called the Fun Seeker action sheet, because a lot of the women that I work with say, fun, what's fun? I don't have fun anymore. And to me, when you're not having enough fun, or you're not seeing friendship, you're not seeing your friends, life's got no juice. It can just feel like dry. It can feel very like you're just going through the motions and doing everything you need to do every day, and then falling into bed exhausted. And they tell themselves, I don't know what fun is anymore, or I don't have time for fun. And the Fun Seeker action sheet helps you to ask you questions. What did I used to find fun? Ask all kinds of questions, and you fill in the blanks. And by the end of it, you've got some ideas flowing about how you're going to inject some more fun into your life.
Oh yeah, we all need fun. We all need fun, and life can get very dreary, can't it, and drag us down, and then we can end up with depression or feeling really low, and a drudge, like I hear so much. I'm sure you hear that as well. I just feel a drudge, and everyone takes me for granted, and that's because we've allowed ourselves, but two, we forget to have fun.
Gotta have fun.
Gotta have fun. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I have a whole section in my book about fun and friendships and friendship challenges, and because there are sometimes we outgrow friends that we used to be really close with, and it's how do we disentangle from the ones that aren't giving us our best energy and all of that. So I explore all of that in the fun and friendships chapter of my book.
Yeah, great idea. Love it. Really love it. How often do you have people working with you? I mean, is it, so they work on Project Me. How do you work with them?
Yes, well, I've been really focusing a lot on the productivity area, because I feel like when people do my online program, I have an online program called Goal Setting for Busy Mothers, and that runs kind of seasonally. I'm not running it at the moment, but the women in that, they do the life wheel assessment in week 1. They figure out which life area they want to set some goals in and focus on, and predominantly they want to work on the productivity area of their life, because they're realizing they need those systems in place. They're running around like a headless chicken, never enough hours in the day to get it all done. And so what I've realized by running that program, I've run it 4 times, and what I'm realizing is I need to do an online course. My next one's going to be called Productivity Bootcamp, and it's going to be all of my best tools and strategies for how to get on top of your busyness so that it frees you up to be able to look at the other areas of your life. So I'm really excited about that. I'm producing it right now, and I'm hoping to get that out in the next few weeks, and that's going to be Productivity Bootcamp. And then what my idea is, you've seen my Project Me Life Wheel flower, right? It's my logo, It's my flower. What my ultimate idea is to create a library of mini courses. So you're doing a mini course in the family area of your life, and you're bringing in doing a mini course in the love area of your life and in health and well-being. And I bring in the experts just like I do in my book and just like I do in my other online program. And then people can eventually have, like, it'll be like an academy, and people can then do the Project Me. They can get it a whole bone. It can get it all, for one price, the academy, or they can pick and choose the little mini courses they do. So that's my bigger vision.
That sounds amazing, because I think growing it like that, like the flower, so that it blooms into something really beautiful. I love that
Yeah.
idea, because just pick it. I think too often people feel overwhelmed. And when they feel that, like you say, if they look at that wheel and say, oh my goodness, there's 8 different things and I don't know where to start. And they feel that they can't tackle it at all. So by having those mini courses, I think that's a really great idea. Breaking it
Yeah.
down, because if we break things down, it's so much easier, and we see we're making some progress, aren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, if you had
Yeah.
told me honestly 10 years ago that I would be helping anybody else to live a well-balanced life, I would have honestly laughed in your face. And that is serious. I mean, my life was so wildly out of balance. I was shouting at my kids all the time. My husband and I were arguing with each other about how to discipline the kids.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the whole thing was just, it felt like a hot mess. And it wasn't until, like I said, I created my Project Me, began really problem solving, figuring things out on paper, and
Mhm.
realizing that I can do anything I put my mind to, when I approach it in a proactive way instead of
Yeah.
complaining about it, being proactive. So it's exciting to me to now be in this position, and I give workshops and I do talks. And I was just in Madrid last week giving a whole workshop and talk to the Madrid English-speaking community in Madrid, who are loving my book, because I used to live there, so I have a little bit of, that's how it all kind of started. I started my writing my book when I was living in Madrid, and so they said, please come back and like tell the story. So I am now, my next kind of thing I'm focusing on is I want to make Project Me be, have you heard of Tom's shoes, where you buy a pair of Tom's shoes and then a pair of shoes get donated to someone who doesn't have shoes? Like I buy plimsolls and sandals and things from my family, because I love this concept of buy a pair of shoes and Tom's give a pair of shoes to somebody who in a country that doesn't have shoes. And I love
Brilliant.
that. So I got this idea in my head. What if Project Me helped mothers with first world problems? Let's face it, our never ending to-do list and all of our things are first world problems. And that's not to diminish them, because our problems are our problems. But by helping by a mother investing in herself, by buying the book, by doing an online program, by coming to a talk or a workshop that I give, a percentage of all proceeds are going to go to help a mother with a third world problem. So, mothers who would dream of having our problems,
Yeah.
so busy with all these different things in my life. I mean, they're like just trying to survive, or just trying to, feed their children. So I've now teamed up with What Charity, which is a UK organization that's helping businesses to align
Okay.
themselves with charities that are in alignment with their goals. And so What Charity are now helping me to decide which charity Project Me is going to support in this year and next year. And so I'm starting my campaign on that now, to help people decide which charity that is going to support them. We've narrowed it down to 3, and now voting takes place. So they can look on my website too, on the blog page. I have something called Which Charity Should Project Me Support, and you can vote for which charities to support. So I really see this whole Project Me thing as like a global movement of mothers helping mothers. And once you get on top of your own busyness, you'll be able to do amazing things in the world. Like, look at me. I would have just been in my own little world, still putting out fires and everything. And I've gone
Mm.
on to be able to help other mothers. And then in a bigger scheme of things, being able to help mothers around the world globally. So this is the story of what can happen to you when you get your own, can I say shit? You can
Of
beat
course you
me out
can.
if you want, but if you when you get your own shit together, you can go on to help more and more people in a way that you could have never imagined in the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. And that is lovely too, to be able to feel that you can help others as well, help ourselves, and then we can help others. And I love the idea of you having a charity. That yeah, I need to go and look on your website again and have a look at that, because that sounds exciting. So yeah, you've
I'm
got
really
lots
excited
of
about it.
plans and lots of exciting things going on for you. What would you say to any woman who's trying to find love in that area of her life? What is it? What resources would you give her?
Well, if she's struggling with the love area of her life, I would definitely recommend that she starts with the Project Meet Challenge Solver action sheet and just starts to, or get a journal out. Start to ask yourself the questions: what is the challenge? What can feel like this big messy marriage or relationship or whatever? It might be like, well, once you write it down, you start to see it's this, and it's this. You can narrow it down to what's the most burning thing right now that I need to solve. And then when you come up with that, I mean, I believe that you are the expert of yourself and that you can really figure things out, but that there are also amazing resources out there. So in the love chapter of my book at the end, there are resources. One of the books that I always recommend, do you know Loving What Is by Byron Katie?
Okay.
I love that book because it's just, for me, it's really helped me in my marriage by realizing that I'm too much up in his business sometimes. Like I'm too much caring too much about stupid things that I shouldn't be. I should be staying in my own business. And Loving What is a really great book that asks you 4 questions, and you get a journal or a notebook out and you ask yourself these 4 questions that she asks you. And I don't want to even tell you what they are, because it's one of these things where you got to just get the notebook out and write down what the questions are, and you realize that so much of what you think is the issue is like a story that you're telling yourself, and that you've been telling yourself so many times that you believe the story. And then there's this turnaround, and you're like, oh, it's just this complete and utter, I mean, it single-handedly changed my relationship with my mother. This book absolutely single-handedly changed the relationship with my mother, which was always very challenging. And I realized I'd just been telling myself these stories about her for so long. And by asking myself these 4 questions, I completely had an utter turnaround. So I recommend that book to people all the time, Loving What Is, for their marriage, for any relationship that's challenging them.
Yeah.
Another book that really changed things for me in my marriage was the 5 Love Languages by Gary
Yes, I
Chapman.
love that book.
I started realizing that how I need to hear love and receive love is completely different from how he needs to. And now when I'm realizing, because his is physical touch and all of that, and I'm realizing that I'm not a touchy person. Even in my baby book, my mother wrote, doesn't love hugs and kisses, it's just not my natural thing. And I realized that my son, my eldest son, needs that too. And by realizing that, I can just be much more giving and affectionate and loving and all of that, because I'm just thinking that isn't what I need, and that book really changed things in my marriage.
Yes, and I think that realization for couples too, well, one, for a person to understand how their loving is, what their language is, and then understanding their partner's language, and then it takes all that stress and anxiety out of it all, as long as you take it on board and accept that.
Yeah, I mean, my husband, I showed him my love language is words of affirmation. I need to hear that you're proud of me, or I need to hear that you loving what I'm doing and taking an active interest in what I'm doing and all of that. And then when he forgets or doesn't say it, I just remind him, remember my love language is just all I want to hear from you right now is just, whatever. And now he is really 20 years together. He's finally, he told me after my book launch, I'm so proud of you. And, went into detail about that. And he just knew that I wanted that more than anything else. I just need to hear that from him more than anybody. He's the one I want to hear it from more than anybody in the world.
Yes, yeah. And I think the other thing is asking for what you need rather than expecting someone to know what you need.
Oh, don't be a mind reader. We do that too much. We just expect that they can see that the dishwasher needs unloading. They can see that there's this pile of laundry here. They can see, why can't they just do it? And it's like, they don't. Okay, let's just face it, they don't. So, just ask in a nice voice instead of this hard done by, do you even know how the dishwasher works? Instead of, being like that and everything, just say, honey, it would be so great. I have to run out right now. It'd be so great if you could load up the dishwasher. Thank you, and when they do it, to actually say, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And to appreciate my husband more for all the things that he does do. He's, in our case, he's our travel agent. He is the one who organizes all travel and books flights and figures things out and books, everything. And so I tell the kids and everything when we're on holiday, just tell him how much you're appreciating that you're on this amazing beach right now, because he has organized everything, and I've noticed that when I show him appreciation for the things he does, his chest puffs up. He feels appreciated. What was that book that came out so many years ago? The Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or the other way around. Is it
Yeah.
men are from what is it? Men are from Mars, women are
I
from
can't remember
Venus.
which way around, but I know which book you mean.
I'm pretty sure and I read that early on when we first got married, and I learned that men need to feel appreciated and women need to feel cherished. And so
Yes.
I just realized early on that he needs to feel appreciated. So I just make sure all the time I tell him how much I appreciate that he did this, or how much I appreciate how early he gets up in the work to go to work. Well, I just get to stay in bed for an extra hour after he leaves, and all that kind of stuff. It makes him feel good to know that I appreciate those things.
Yeah, and I guess that the people that I work with, they so often, well, they get resentful. Well, why should I say thank you? They don't say thank you to me, and then all that bitterness and resentment builds in, and I think, but relationships are like investment banks. The more you put into them, the more you get out of them. If you just open an investment account, sit there and look for the interest, it's not going to happen. You've got nothing to take out because you've put nothing in. And
I love that analogy. That's a good
good. Well, you
one.
could use it. You're very welcome to use
I
it.
love that.
There is so much, and they just sit back and say, but I'm not getting anything out. Well, what have you put into it? What is it? So, and just being thankful, not kind of ingratiating kind of thank you, but just saying it from your heart, because then it's not ingratiating, is it?
Mm-hmm. One of my most popular blog posts that's been shared on social media and was then picked up by the Huffington Post is called "How to Treat Your Husband Like Your Best Friend." And it was about me realizing that we were getting into it, because my marriage hasn't always been smooth sailing. We've had our rough patches for sure. But I realized that we'd stopped treating each other like best friends, and we were starting to just kind of just he'd come home from work and I just kind of launch into everything that had gone wrong at home and all this, and he was launching into everything that was going bad at work and all that. And we would just, you wouldn't do that if you saw a friend. If you saw a friend, you'd like open the door and welcome them in, and all of that. And I just realized that maybe I need to be a bit more like a 50s housewife. And I started, seriously, I started channeling my inner 50s housewife, stopping what I was doing and kind of greeting him at the door. Okay, I didn't take his coat and hat and hang it up. It wasn't quite like that.
No.
But, definitely stop what I'm doing and greet him and make eye connection and, give him a kiss, and be so thankful that I'm not the one doing that commute every day. And just ask him how his day was, and just start being a lot more listening a lot more. Well, my blog post goes into it. If anyone wants to look on my website, it's called How to Treat Your Husband Like Your Best Friend. And it's kind of my tips of how I started turning things around in our marriage. And I still stick with that now. And I wrote about it in my book and everything, that I am determined to treat my husband as well as I do one of my good friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I often ask people to treat themselves like their own best friend.
Absolutely. The most important relationship you have is with yourself.
Yeah, would you speak to your best friend like that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, probably not. So why are you treating yourself like that? And then it goes to everybody else in your life, because it will be the partner that gets it in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
So often treated badly and
yeah.
spoken to badly, and it isn't good. You're so right.
One of the big things for me too, when we were going again through just some kind of just constantly clashing, is I read something by Eckhart Tolle. Do you know Eckhart Tolle? He's written a few books called The Power of Now and A New Earth, and he's kind of hard to read, to be honest with you. Like, I've never made it through a whole Eckhart Tolle book, but I've always gotten something from his books. And he said something in his book, A New Earth, and he talked about taming the ego. And he said the ego is like a sleeping serpent that's like sleeping, just inside of there. And then suddenly, and I think about this in terms of my relationship, my husband will say something that wakes up my serpent ego, and my ego wakes up and wants to defend its position. It wants to wake up and just be like, how dare you say that to me? How can you treat me like that? Or how can you, whatever. And when your ego gets involved, suddenly it's like clash of the egos, right?
Yeah.
And you end up having a huge fight. And my husband and I are big fighters. Like when we don't get along, we yell. We aren't. I know there's passive aggressive people who more like keep it all inside. We are not passive aggressive. Like we just, And I realized that when I'm triggered, when my ego is triggered, that I just want to defend my position and all of that. And what I learned from this little snippet in this Eckhart Tolle book was when your sleeping serpent ego is rising, when you can feel it waking up, you can feel it like it was sleeping, suddenly it's waking up, notice it. And by simply noticing your ego, you'll send it back to sleep again by just noticing it and saying, ego, there you are, you're waking up, whatever. And it's hard in the moment. So I used to set myself a reminder on my phone that would come up every Saturday and Sunday morning before I was about to kind of, start, because that's when I see him the most, is at the weekends.
Yeah.
And it would say, tame your ego. And it was a reminder that when something happened, instead of just immediately launching into like defensive mode, to just like go, okay, that my ego wants to come out and defend myself right now, and instead just calm down, because it's so hard in the moment, isn't it, to calm down when someone says something. It helped me so much that now there are things that my husband says that I think the old me would have completely gone crazy right now because he said that. The new me just has a much calmer reaction and just says, no, it's not actually like that, or I'll just say, like, I've completely changed. I used to be fiery, and we used to fight so much because I would get so triggered. And now he can say the same things. I don't get triggered. And I realize it just doesn't matter. It's not worth having a big fight over.
No. And I think that's so true. People, I think it's a particular stage in a relationship when they get to the power struggle, where it's a case of, well, yeah, everything was fine, but now I feel that you're taking advantage of me, or you're not noticing me, or I think that I'm being put down. Whatever our stuff is at that point, that's when it happens, isn't it? When you're not going to get the last word. I'm going to make sure that you notice me. I'm going to make sure that I'm heard and that I'm important enough. And that battle goes on and on and on. And I agree. Allow your serpent to go back to sleep, because some things are just not worth arguing about.
And if it is worth arguing about, or not worth arguing about, but if it is worth expressing, then because I'm a writer, I send him an email. I honestly do. If I just feel like I'm not going to be able to say this without shouting, I'm not going to be able to say this without crying, I'm not going to say this without him saying something and then me getting really angry, I type it all out in an email. And that way I can edit it, I can look at it, and I just feel like I'm much more objective when I put it into an email. And then I say, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling hurt that you said that, and I think the reason why could be and I say it, whatever. And I started doing this years ago. I have another blog post on Project Me called How to End an Argument by Sending an Email. And I just go through the method that I use and how other people I've taught this to have used it too. And it's amazing that he will then send me one back. We can be in 2 different rooms, by the way. He'll send me one back that says, thank you for expressing how you feel. This is how I feel. And it might be a little bit of a back and forth, but I'll tell you what, there's no shouting. And we both end up just like reaching out to each other, and it ends. And we, this is quite confidential, but I don't think he'll listen to this podcast. We were just in Spain, and we had one, we were staying with friends, so we couldn't shout about it. Whereas if it would have been at home, we probably would have shouted about it. And he sent me a text message. So he's learned this from me. And he sent me a text message saying, I'm feeling really hurt because he went through why. And I had not seen it from that way at all. And when he put it to me calmly in this text message, and I think he was able to articulate because it was in the text message, I was able to send him one back that said, I absolutely was only telling that story to our friends to be entertaining. And I had no idea that that was hurtful to you. And I am so sorry, and it was just really great to be able to put that in. He was able to send me a text message, and I know he learned that from me. He would have otherwise been passive aggressive, not speaking to me till we got back home, and then probably would have had an absolute fit and shouted at me about what I'd done. And instead he was able to just like type that out to me. So
yeah, that's delightful. And one of the things I'm picking up from you, Kelly, a lot is that when you're talking or when you're expressing your feelings, whether it's a text, an email, discussion, you own your feelings. You don't jab it out to whoever it is. And I think that is so important, because once you start that, I call it the pointy finger. If you use your pointy finger either physically or emotionally, you've lost the battle already.
Yeah.
Because they will only respond in kind. They will feel that they've been jabbed at, so they will recoil. And what do we do when we feel hurt? We'll attack. And so the arguments get higher and
Oh, and we drag up old stuff and it ends up turning
oh
into, oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it becomes horrible, doesn't it? And
yeah.
another thing. And so it goes on, but simply because that pointy finger's been jabbed at us. And so, yeah, you're teaching of this is, I felt uncomfortable about that. I feel unhappy about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lovely way to start any conversation when you're trying to resolve something. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just wanted to point that out because you used it, but you didn't draw attention to it. And I wanted to, because I thought, yeah, this lady really has her stuff sorted.
I've read so many books. This is not just I'm the expert on love. This is what I believe. I believe that we can figure anything out if we go to resources. So if people, come to you, they listen to your podcast. I really believe that if something's challenging you in your life, don't complain about it. Don't live with it. If it's eating you up, if it's affecting your happiness in some way, figure it out. And there are so many gifted people walking around on this planet to help us with anything that's challenging us in a way that we never had decades ago, or even 10 years ago before the internet. You just didn't have the resources you have now. You didn't have podcasts, you didn't have websites, you didn't have all of the amazing stuff that we have now. So
Yeah,
anything, you can figure out anything now.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? I just love that. I just love the fact that we can solve anything, and or find the resources to have the tools to do anything.
Exactly. If we can't figure it out on our own, which we don't have to figure everything out on our own, just choose find those resources. Something will resonate with you, and you'll think, "Eureka! This is it."
Yeah, yeah. So you've got something that's you've got planned for 2020 with your husband, and I'm intrigued about that. Can
The
you?
2020 plan. Okay, so I've mentioned Spain an awful lot and Ibiza. So my husband and I love the Spanish island of Ibiza. We've been going there, like I said, since before we had kids, and after we had kids, we continue to go there. And when they were small, we wanted to move there with them. And we decided, yes, we'll move to Ibiza. And it was just never quite what will we do there for work? I didn't have my online business yet.
No.
And we didn't know what we would do to earn a living and everything. And then I started Project Me, and we realized, oh, maybe we could work there. My husband could have a little boat business or something. We took the kids over when they were already now teenagers, early teens, tween and teen. We took them over for a trial day at a school there, and thinking, we're going to move there. This is finally going to happen. And they came back from their trial day, and they said there were kids flying paper airplanes around the room. There was a kid drinking Fanta in class. They were disrespectful to the teachers. And we thought to ourselves, you know what? This is our dream, but we're being really selfish by taking the kids out of schools that they love, that they're thriving in, that they're just doing so well in, and putting them over in a, and some people, I'm not saying this for everybody, because I know plenty of people who live in Ibiza and have their kids in school there, but they've been there from a really young age, and they wouldn't have been taking them from at a teenager. My kids were able to see the complete contrast between what they were used to and that, and they weren't happy with it. So we couldn't do that to them. So what we decided then was that in 2020 would be when they would both be at university, and we would be able to then move to Ibiza. So that still felt back then like an awfully long time away. 2020 felt like, a long time away.
Yeah.
But now my eldest son is 18 and our youngest is 15. And in 2020, they are both going to be flown the coop, as we say in America, and they've known that we said to them, okay, we won't move there, we won't put you in school, you're not happy there, we're going to keep you where you are. And Dad and I will move to Ibiza when you guys go to university. And so that's the plan. They both know it. They both fortunately plan on going to university. They're both really keen to go to university, and they're very bright, and we know they will. My eldest son has already had his offers to go in September, and so it's like some people are like, oh my gosh, you're just gonna like leave? What about when they want to come home? And I'm like, home is Ibiza, and they will come. What better place to live if you want your kids to come and visit you a lot than Ibiza? That's the way we feel about it. So 2020 is our plan, and it's amazing to think that a lot of people who are our age now and whose kids are our age now are getting that whole kind of kids flying the nest, empty nest syndrome, what are we going to do kind of thing. And we are quite the opposite. We feel like it's the next chapter of our kids' lives, and it's the next chapter of our lives. And with my business Project Me becoming so successful as it is now, I'm so happy to be able to say that I'm going to be able to retire my husband in 2020, in the sense that he can leave his job that he's been plugging away at for so long that he doesn't really like, to be honest, and he'll be able to leave that city job and come to Ibiza, where he's probably going to find work. He's a DJ, loves DJing. He'll probably find a beach bar where he loves to DJ, and maybe have a little boat or something. And so that is just so exciting for me to know that I'm going to be able to retire him and continue to do the work I love out there, because with an online business, as you know, you can work from anywhere. And to be able to work from there. And also I love running retreats, and I run a Project Me retreat for mothers in Ibiza, and I'm going to be able to just do that wholeheartedly and have more mothers come to Ibiza for my retreat, and also get to go and be a guest speaker at other retreats in Ibiza, because there's so many retreats that happen in Ibiza. And hopefully get flown off to exotic places like Bali and Hawaii to this is my big dream vision. I really believe in vision boards, and I really believe in having dream visions and things that you want for the future. So my bigger dream vision is the whole running retreats and speaking at retreats around the world and all of that. So yeah.
That's fabulous. Oh, what a great message for mums, especially when they get to that emptiness syndrome, and all they see is it's miserable, they've hit the menopause, all they can see is doom and gloom. And to plan that, to say this is going to be the next chapter in our lives, I just think that is so inspiring. I really admire you,
I really believe that that your life is like a book, and you got the beginning of your life, all the time before you have kids, and then you've got even the area when your kids are with you. Let's call it 18 years or whatever it is that your kids are living under your roof. Even that is divided into like the baby and toddler stages, where you're deep in the trenches, and then when they start school and you have a little bit more flexibility, and then when they get a bit older and there's more flexibility, and then when they leave, you have then got the whole next, you've got more of your life after your kids fly the coop than when they're with you. And I think sometimes in the motherhood stage, you can get so much thinking that that's it. You need to think beyond that. You need to be thinking beyond that. Do you know Marie Forleo? Do you follow Marie Forleo, the U.S. Kind of business coach woman? I'm crazy about her. And I did her online school called B School back in 2013. And that was when Project Me was just this vague idea for maybe a book. I knew it was working for me. And I did her online business school, and I learned how to take this idea for Project Me and turn it into an online business. And I always recommend that to women, that if they're thinking about where to even begin, if they got like maybe a business idea and they don't know where to go with it, like Marie Forleo's B School is an 8-week online program that teaches you how to take the seed of an idea that you have, or if you've already even got an idea, and how to turn it into, what I've done basically.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
A great role model. You are a great role model. I just so admire you, and you don't just talk the talk, you're walking the walk, and that is really something. So is there anything else you want to say before we that we missed out on? Or I think we've chatted a lot, but is there anything else? I mean, I'll explain to people how they can get in touch with you, but anything else anything you want to say?
Ooh, well, just, become the project manager of your life. That's what I say. Treat your life like an exciting project. And when something is challenging you, figure it out and move past it, because you deserve to be happy. Your kids deserve you to be happy. The world deserves you to be happy, because I really believe that you're going to go out there in the world and make it a better place when you start with yourself. Make yourself happier and figure out all those challenges. And before you know it, you're out there like making a positive difference to the world and sharing your gifts with the world.
Great advice. Great advice. So I'm going to put all the details in your show notes, in my show notes. But how do people best get in touch with you? Because they may just be listening or not have the details to
Yeah,
hand.
exactly.
So,
myprojectme.com. When you get to myprojectme.com, you find out how to get my Life Wheel tool. It gets sent to your inbox, and then you can get my Monday Motivator newsletter, where every Monday I send you a tip in a different one of your 8 key life areas. And you'll also find my action sheets on the website that I spoke about, all those printable action sheets. And my book ties everything together. So it's called Project Me for Busy Mothers, a practical guide to finding a happier balance. It's on Amazon, and you can get that you can get it, prime delivery to you tomorrow. And it's great because people have been saying for years that they love the website, but you got to kind of go here, there, and everywhere. And the book is just like, takes you through step by step exactly how to create your own Project Me.
Fantastic. It's been so delightful talking to you, Kelly.
I love talking to you too, and you're going to become my hot new resource in the love area.
Thank you. And it's been delightful, and I hope the listeners have enjoyed it too. So thank you so much, and I'm so glad I met you.
Me too.
I really hope you enjoyed the podcast, and you can find all the details of this episode in the show notes. If you've enjoyed it, then why not leave a review so that others can find the podcast more easily? You'll find all the details that I mentioned in the show notes, as well as links to my website, where you can find lots more information and links to other resources. My contact details are there too. If you'd like to receive my newsletter, which contains articles and my latest offers, then why not just email me? It's wendy@yourrelationshipspecialist.co.uk. Details are in the show notes.